Bertemu kembali dalam Niaga AWANI dan saya akan teruskan antara diskusi kita seterusnya di mana digital trust among individuals is rapidly running out. Along with it, the expectation that digital technologies and services will protect all stakeholders' interests and uphold societal expectations and value. Given today's cyber threat landscape, it is imperative our organization have the correct protocols, policy and procedures in place to keep their information safe, data secure, infrastructure robust and ultimately make them resilient. To discuss further with us today, ready on the line is Kalyana Mohan Teagarajan, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder Swipey. Mohan, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to talk to both you ladies.
All right, I'm going to start right away with the cybersecurity and digital trust was said to be the new age of digital enlightenment as digital technologies profoundly affect a delicate balance crafted in some cases over centuries or even millennials. Can you help us understand better on the importance of what we can explore in erection and highlighting both technological advances and community efforts?
Sure. It's an interesting topic, and then you brought it up. It's becoming a lot more important, right? And you break it down into the two factors you mentioned. Is digital trust, is how much I, as a consumer, trust your product, and cybersecurity, how much I feel safe with you. Now, both of these components, if I use a metaphor from the hospitality industry and Wi-Fi, 10 years ago, Wi-Fi was a nice to have, and it was a nice product differentiator if you offered Wi-Fi, and if you didn't offer Wi-Fi. Now, it's a bare minimum to be what is considered a credible business. So both digital trust and cybersecurity works in the same fashion. Many moons ago, it was, companies were doing it. It was nice to have, but in today's market, it's a must-have. You can't really go to market without having this digital trust in place in cybersecurity. The good thing is that there's plenty of good men out there, as men as they're bad men, that want to exploit the vulnerability. Just as businesses, we need to start leveraging the good men out there and have best practices.
All right, Mohan, and digital trust in the technologies used by businesses and governments is at an all-time low. In a KPMG survey, over 75% of executives believe that new technologies like AI and machine learning raise troubling cybersecurity and ethics questions. Plus, failing to shore up digital trust is already costing companies money. So, what is the route to safe, secure, and cyber-resilient organization?
Phenomenal, isn't it? The number that you quoted, 75%. What a high number, right? Now, the truth is technology is moving a lot faster than we can manage. Even before we can understand the full implication of innovation A, innovation B is already in the system, right? So, at Swipey, we take a Maslow approach, Maslow hierarchy approach on this, right? We work in a pyramid scheme and say, at the bottom of our pyramid, what is the fundamentals that must have, like the basics that I mentioned earlier. For us, from a digital trust point of view, our product must be stable, bug-free, consistently providing the services that it promises. Like it doesn't do what it says it does, then you've missed the basic requirement. Then you move up the pyramid. Then we look at external threat. Can our systems be compromised, or do we have the customer data secure? Because our customers trust us to manage them, right? Manage their information. So so we take that approach, and this is how we build our route, if you may call it. But if you think about the entire pyramid, it is not a one-way street. It's just not that the organizations or the companies need to do this. It's a collaborative exercise with the consumers and the end users. Is what role do they play to ensure that the ecosystem is secure? So we also work with them to ensure that both parties are playing their role to keep the digital trust level high and cybersecurity high.
Yeah, it's important for everyone to work together in achieving this. So, but if trust in technology is lost forever, then so too might be the possibility in the future of innovation and opportunity. Hence, the decision-making is fundamental responsibility of CEOs, board directors and other leaders, because it needs to bring together a host of factors like cybersecurity, safety, interoperability, privacy, transparency, redressability, and ethics and fairness. So can you share with us what's the real risk if we lost trust in technology, innovation, and even in each other?
Great question. Well, the risk is one, a long delay in adoption of the technology, or worse, death of the innovation. Now that's worse, right? So you think about like a little small tree growing, and you've killed it before even it can grow, and we have no idea what forest you're going to build. So even before innovations can take form and we can fully understand the use cases, we've shelved it. So that's the true risk of not securing the innovation with the host of cybersecurities and digital trust. Now, as a startup, and Swipey is a startup, speed and time is of essence. And for many companies in today's day and age, speed and time is. You need to get to market quickly. You need to have adoption really high. So if you stumble in providing the digital trust, it might be a slow death for the startup itself. Like if your product innovation is not adopted fast enough, then even if your product is amazing, innovation is great, but because the consumers don't trust it, the adoption becomes super slow, and the end might be closer than you think. So it is super important that we don't get to a point where the trust for the technology is lost, or even there's a question around it. So as we build a business, trust has always been an important factor for Swipey, being a fintech company. We build up from ground up. Right? It's part of our core risk metrics, part of our core culture. That's how we look at it, and it's super important.
Mohan, with all the risk that you mentioned just now, should companies still consider financial and non-financial investment to further strengthen their cybersecurity? And where are we right now in the context of Malaysia?
The questions are keen to asking organizations, should you invest in your people, or financially and non-financially? And the answer is absolutely yes. You should invest in your assets, and cybersecurity and digital trust of your product is an asset. So definitely do it. Now, I definitely see it here in Malaysia. There's a good level of innovation and context and wanting to do it. And I see it being applied in some cases, but also I've seen it completely being ignored. So I see this across the board in the industry, kind of on and off, which is troubling, but yet positive as opportunity to do something great there. The challenge is really keeping up with the innovation. That it becomes a lot more harder as we educate ourselves for the current innovation that is potentially a security risk, and then the next thing we know, something else comes up, right? So overall, it feels like we might be a few years behind. However, we kind of fought to be a few years behind. So the way at Swipey we manage it, and maybe some advice on how we've done it, is we access mentors and industry innovators. So we reach out to people that are successful either in the country or outside the country, and we have a kind of a collaborative discussion about how have you managed it and what advice would you give us right at the stage that we are in. And really, I will take a time to give a shout out to Chiman from Moneyline, who's been our mentor and a great supporter in our space, right? So we continue to do this. So like for a startup like ours, trust is key. And as soon as you realize that from the beginning, it forms the core part of a business, right? Like we said, so we have to not only provide financial, but also non-financial. And that is, in our form, it's cultural, building the cultural awareness within our organization, also with our customers, of the best practices to have.
All right, talking about trust is key, going back to the cybersecurity, which also requires cooperation from consumer side for companies that involve heavy tech with clients. So what are some of the things they can do to further propel the trust and ensure secure transaction and data protection and others?
Absolutely. Now, I'm mentioning the whole time that it's not a one-way street. It's a collaborative. Both parties are involved, both customers and companies are involved to protect data and ensure there's no vulnerability in the system. Definitely a collaborative approach is needed. Now, if we let's take Swipey as an example. So we're a fintech that provides operating system for businesses to manage their financial operation. And the way we work together is, now one of our product is our corporate card solution. So we tell our users, don't put all your expenses in a single Visa card, for example. Spread that risk in having multiple cards in the system, so that in case one gets compromised, you're able to quickly terminate it or block it and have another one in place. So those are some of the practices we have. Also, the most common common security component. Don't share your OTP, right? And we still do. A lot of business still do because the way that business financial operation is set up. And with Swipey, we educate the users about issue virtual cards to all your employees so that there's no need to share OTPs. You have real-time visibility and control over the employee's expense. So this part of education is crucial. And we continuously work with the customers and consumers. We also ask them, how can we help you further, right? This collaboration needs to exist and will be the way we succeed in this digital trust and cybersecurity.
All right, Mohan, maybe you can share your hopes towards the new government, especially Ministry of Communication and Digital, and how to overcome issues like you mentioned just now.
So, good question. How can the new government or any government at the time help? If I take the startup community context as being a startup, I think it's a little easier for me to comment on it. There's a lot of financial support that's being done there. The grants are there, Panjana grants are there. That's great. Deployment is kind of slow, but it's great. We spoke about non-financial and how to get access to communities and experts in the matter that can help educate not only the businesses, but also consumers. I think that kind of joint effort would be welcomed. Getting together a group of experts and helping them educate and grow the startup community, who eventually, some of them are going to be top 10%, 20% are going to be leading the economy in a few years. So how do you get them at the start? I would suggest that kind of efforts are also not ignored. The government has access to some of these experts. The approach would be that. That would be my recommendation.